All right. Well, hello, people of the world, and as always, welcome to my channel, Sir Koolzalot. You're cool, I'm cool, we're all super cool. So let's jump on in. So today I am taking a look at a product that I came across that's got the name INSUCOOLER. So obviously it's an insulin cooler travel case. I think the manufacturing company is called Huizhou Tufei Technology Co. I'm sure I did a terrible job of pronouncing that. This one caught my attention because it had similarities to another product that I really like, except that it's claiming to be a little bit bigger, especially the cooling chamber system in the area. It can hold maybe up to 3 large Zepbound pens, or perhaps quite a lot of smaller pens or vials, depending on what you're using. So I was actually really hoping that it might be a potential replacement for the current product that I use a lot, which is the 4-roll family cooler. So I gave this one a pretty intensive kind of test run to see what it can do. I've been messing around with it for about 3 or 4 weeks now, continuously running it under different tests and stuff. So I will present a little bit of the data here, and obviously not the whole story, because that's going to be a pretty long video. So let's jump on in and let me show you what I got. All right, so yeah, as always, just flashing up a couple of disclaimers here. So I'm on a personal quest to find the best medicine travel cooler products for my needs. All of my views and opinions that I present here are my own, and all the data that I've collected is my own, and I have no sponsorship from any of these companies. This is all my own work. So let's take a look. If you're following my channel, this is my usual fare of trip interests around California, around the US, and to Europe. So this is kind of a high-level view of the INSUCOOLER product. So it comes with quite a few pieces. It has the main kind of cooler container that has an active USB cooler. It also has a lid for passive cooling using kind of a biogel pack. And then also it comes included with a battery pack, some cables, and a carrier case. So we'll kind of take a look at all of that a bit more carefully. This gives you kind of a little peek at the instructions and how it works. I'll actually say a little bit more about this with some of the videos that I have. So we'll kind of test this all out and see what it does. These are all stock photos from the company's sites and adverts. This is just a quick kind of picture of the instruction manual that came in the box. It was kind of the only place that actually really indicated which Chinese manufacturer was making this product, other than this kind of INSUCOOLER sort of, I don't know what you call it, like logo that was printed over some of the areas. And interestingly enough, the cooler that I got was very blank and generic. It didn't have INSUCOOLER printed on the side, so maybe it was one of the earlier batches, I don't know. So the manual calls the active USB cooler the Evercool, and then the sort of the biogel pack version the Sleek Cool. And so you kind of get the 2 different lids when you get this kit. So I'll show more with the video. It actually comes with a 2-year warranty, which potentially is impressive. But it points you to this Outlook.com email, and a lot of the information is a little bit blank, so I'm not actually sure whether that will follow through or not. But I thought that was quite nice touch to get a 2-year warranty here. So this is probably the meat of what we're going to be interested in here. So it has a lot of sort of tables that have various claims about what it can do. So there's different cooling methods. There's the biogel method. There's using the battery pack, or there's actually plugging it into the wall. A little bit odd that the battery power and the in the wall specs are slightly different. Not quite sure why. Maybe the system kind of changes a little bit when it detects that you're on battery mode. I don't quite know, but anyway, theoretically looking at this is potentially really impressive. If this system can carry a little bit more than the 4-all family cooler or some of the other ones that are out there that use sort of the cooling induction aluminium tube configuration, which seems to be very effective. So it has a little bit more kind of capacity, and if it can really meet what it's claiming here in this table, that will be very impressive. I would be willing to take this one live on trips if it works. So let's take a look at that. All right, so here's kind of a tour of the product. So this is the box that I got that it came with. So I'll kind of quickly show you a little bit how the box looks. I guess I should spin that around so you can actually kind of look at it more carefully. And then it's got like a bunch of kind of logos and different things trying to indicate that it can do different things. So when you open it up, you kind of got this manual thing, and then under it you have the sort of this carrier bag that comes with it. And then when you get into the main area of the box, you can kind of see the different pieces that come with it. This actually, when it was originally packed and I opened it, it had like a little plastic bag, but I obviously removed all of that for simplicity of this video. So there was a little bit more packing than you see there. So there's the biogel pack. Actually, it's exactly the same as the 4-all family biogel pack, except that it has a INSUCOOLER sort of sticker placed on it. Then you can kind of see the cap that would be used with the biogel, and then there was a battery cap sort of thing that came with it, and then of course you got the main cooler that has the USB cooling cap attached to it. So that's basically what you get in the box. So pretty nice. It has pretty good value relative to some of the other systems. It's going for around $120, but every so often they offer a rebate. So I actually managed to grab this one it was around $70 on Amazon when I managed to grab it with a rebate. So sometimes with these coolers, if you're a little bit patient and just wait for a little bit, kind of log in every week for a little while, a rebate will pop up and you can grab one for about $30-40 cheaper than it's sort of retail priced at. I put a few pens next to the cooler there, so you can kind of get an idea of size. There's a Zepbound pen on the left and a wegovy pen there towards the right. So let's keep going. So in this next video, I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into how it works. So the setup is quite nice. It's basically, it has like a touch control. So when you touch the surface of the lid, there's a little button that basically activates how it functions. So the way it works is really quite simple. You press it, you turn it on, plug it in, turn it on, and all of that stuff. And then once it's on, when you press the cap once, it will change the temperature from either Fahrenheit to centigrade or centigrade to Fahrenheit. So I'm tapping. See how I'm actually using the biogel cap right now that also has a little digital thermometer, and it has a little probe that you can kind of poke down into the container to measure the temperature. So every time I tap the cap, it will basically change from degrees centigrade to degrees Fahrenheit, depending on what you prefer. And that's basically as simple as this is with how it works. Now for the USB cap, you can cycle between centigrade and Fahrenheit doing the same thing, but also when you press and hold the button, it will allow you to change the lower target temperature that the cooler will go to. Now that's not very clear in the instruction manual, and so just maybe really pay that attention, because when you first get the unit, it's actually set to cool down to 46 degrees Fahrenheit, which is basically on the skirt of the upper end of the storage temperature of most products. So you actually have to, so here right now I'm just pressing once to kind of cycle it between centigrade and Fahrenheit, but in a minute I'll press and hold, and then what that allows you to do is, here we go, so I'm pressing and holding, and then it'll start flashing. So now I've set that, actually I had it set at 35, and you can kind of see how I'm cycling between 35 all the way to 46. And what that does is when you cycle through those temperature ranges, it sets the lower end of how far the USB cap will cool down to. Now, one cautionary note here is, as I was doing a lot of testing with this, what I discovered was when you set it to 35 Fahrenheit, actually it really only manages to get down as far as 44 degrees Fahrenheit in the actual chamber. So there's quite a few degrees discrepancy between the reading temperature and actually the actual temperature of the chamber. And then when you set it to straight up 46 degrees, it actually in the cooling chamber really sits at around 48 or 49 degrees. So there isn't quite even a linear relationship between that discrepancy between the temperature sets. Not entirely sure what's going on there, but that's just the way it came out with this unit. Maybe this unit wasn't calibrated well and I got unlucky, or actually maybe they, when they designed this thing, the temperature probe was not adjusted to account for the fact that there would be a temperature difference between the probe measuring the temperature and actually the container itself. So who knows? But anyway, just note that there is a quite a big discrepancy there between the readout on what is the lower temperature and what it actually really is. But not necessarily a problem. Even though you set it to 35 and it can only really go down to 44, that may still be a useful temperature if it can hold that sustainably through different conditions. So I'll show you what it can actually do in a little minute. So that's basically the setup. Let's keep on going. So here's that carrier case that comes with it. So it has like this pretty rugged strap. It has kind of a military green kind of feel to it. This bag's kind of crushed at the moment because that's how it was packed, but you can, I'm going to sort of puff it open, and it's kind of a cylinder thing. It's a little bit bigger than the container, so it just, the container sort of fits very loosely in there. And then of course, when you're using the USB, you don't want to cover that cap. So that little lid for the carrier case is a little bit awkward if you're planning to use it with the USB system. The lid's obviously a little bit nicer if you're using the gel pack, because you can just kind of close it up. That said, this bag is just fabric. It doesn't, it has no attempt at being have any kind of insulation packing value type thing. If this thing were to drop on the floor, it wouldn't protect the unit in any way, because it doesn't really have any padding or anything like that. It's just a fabric bag. and then it has quite a big sort of pocket on the side. The battery, massive amount of space, so it just sort of sits in there, and there's a bunch of straps and other things so you can attach stuff and hold it and so on. I'm pretty underwhelmed by this. It's not. I think ideally I would have preferred a carrier bag that had additional insulation layer capability to further protect the product. Perhaps from if you're walking outside from the sun, or just enhancing its thermal protection from losing or gaining heat, depending on how you want to view that. And I would have preferred this to be a lot more tight and snug against the container, to really kind of minimize the amount of space that it actually consumes, because you have to kind of carry and travel with this. So I think it's nice if it's kind of maybe more discreet and as compact as possible. So I think they could have done a bit more with this bag. Not sure why they ended up with this design. And then unfortunately the color, I don't like this particular color, but it is what it is. That's what you would be stuck with if you purchased this product. All right, let's keep going. So if you're curious, I thought it might be of interest to put it right next to the 4 all-family Voyager, which is on the left here, versus the INSUCOOLER that's on the right. So now you can kind of get an idea of the size. You can kind of see it's a little bit sort of wider and bigger overall. And so that was the piece that sort of caught my attention as being, wow, maybe I could actually carry an extra pen or two with this. On the right side, there was an extra video there. For whatever interesting reason, you can actually unscrew the aluminium chamber from the USB cooling cap. So that was just something I noticed. Don't know if that's going to help or not, or whatever. I was debating whether perhaps I could take the aluminium chamber from the INSUCOOLER and move it over to the 4 all family. So I was kind of messing around with different ideas. It would be kind of cool if the 4 all family had a slightly bigger aluminium chamber capacity. Actually, I think they do now. I noticed on their website that they have an XL version, but I haven't got a chance to try that yet, because it's just come out, and I haven't had a chance to kind of order it and stuff. So let's keep going. Here you can kind of this is sort of a little how much can it hold video. You've seen a few of these. So I got the Zepbound on the left and the wegovy on the right. I only have 4 wegovy pens because I shifted over to Zepbound. But you can, they're useful enough to give you a sense of how much you can fit. I'm guessing you can fit maybe 7, maybe 6 or 7 wegovy pens when you've got the gel pack, and you can fit 3 Zepbound pens when you're using the gel pack. You do have to invert one of the Zepbound pens to get it to fit in. Now, unfortunately, in later testing, there is a temperature gradient between the lower and the upper chamber when you use the gel pack, and so I would not advise you to invert product or leave product or the product area of your pens in the upper section of this container when you're using the gel pack, because it will warm up much more quickly. So now I'm playing around with the aluminium tube, so you can actually fit 3 Zepbound pens in there with a little bit of a stacking. You have to place one down with the cap towards the lid, and then the other 2 pens you will invert, and you will place the cap towards the opening, and then you have to sort of slightly stack them on top of each other so that the caps sort of, they almost sit over each other in that position, as you can see in the video. But they do all fit in there, and you can close the lid as well, and it's very comfortable. You're not going to crush them or anything, but you have to attach the lid in the inverted position so your product doesn't sort of fall down under gravity when you flip it over. So yeah, so let's keep on going. That kind of gives you a taste of how much this product can hold. So next, if you've been following my channel, here's my usual setup. I use a lot of probes. I really like the SwitchBot probes. I have calibrated temperature sensors, so I make sure everything is optimally calibrated, usually within plus or minus a fraction of a degree, no more than 1 degree. I use Tempifies as well now and then. And I use a Viva reptile incubator unit to basically simulate different ambient temperature conditions. So I'm trying to be as scientific as possible here to give these products the best chance that they deserve. All right, well, this is kind of the money shot. There's probably about 3 weeks of constant data here looking at different things. So I'll kind of speak to a lot of this, but I'll maybe draw your attention to a couple of items of interest. So the blue plot where it says cooler temperature at different positions, that's the container temperature at the time of different tests going on. So I'll use hopefully my mouse will start to appear here, and so here I'll sort of run along the blue plot there with my mouse, so you can kind of see that. And then the purple plot here is the chamber or the environmental temperature. So that's the outside of the container temperature, so you can kind of see what's going on. So the first part was I was right at the beginning here. I was playing around with that. Well, what happens when you have it set at 46 degrees or 35 degrees? And so really, you can kind of see that nudge of temperature change. When I had it set at 46 degrees, it was the container chamber was actually hovering at around 48 Fahrenheit, and then when I set the temperature to 35 degrees on the unit, it kind of went down to about 44. I didn't really see it go any lower than that at any point when you're using the USB cooler. So then I put it, I gave it a little bit of temperature pressure. So I took it up to 85, I took it up to 95. I almost went to 100, but I decided to not be too mean. The bottom line actually is that it really starts to struggle to hold the core temperature when you go above 85 degrees. So once you get to about 85 degrees, it will breach the 46 Fahrenheit mark and go above that, and it will head on towards 50. So it's quite fragile with regards to the environmental temperature. So this unit, be very careful if you use it in warmer climate conditions, where you're in the I would say the 80, the 85 sort of temperature ranges and stuff, because it will. I highly doubt that it's going to hold below 46 Fahrenheit. So that's maybe caution number 1. So, but when the temperature is in under 70 Fahrenheit ambient and so on, it is able to hold a temperature of around 44 degrees very stably for a very sustained period. I think I had this running for like a week or something at one point, and it's very stable. But as I said, it gets a bit stressed and strained when the environmental temperature starts going up. So maybe it's not good for Florida or Hawaii or the tropics or something like that. I gave the battery that came with it a test run. The battery that was included I was pretty impressed with the quality. It lasted 12 hours 43 minutes. So you can see here where I started the test, and then you can kind of see where the test ends. When the test ends, basically the power shuts off and the unit starts warming up. So the unit went from 44 to 46 degrees very quickly. Within under 15 minutes it was beyond 46 degrees, and then it warms back up to room temperature within 4 hours. So the problem when you use those USB induction lids is that they transfer heat energy very quickly. So when the unit is not active and transferring energy out, it's going to quickly go the other way and transfer energy in, so it warms up very quickly. So in the real world, if you do have a situation where your unit, the USB piece fails, you'll actually want to remove that lid very quickly and put on the gel pack lid that is designed to be insulated, and that will give you a little bit more mileage in that sort of emergency situation. So maybe something to think about. So that's nothing unexpected about seeing the unit warm up very quickly when the temperature fails. I then actually tried my favorite battery, which is an INU battery. You can check out my other videos for that, and that one was able to get the unit running for 13.5 hours, so it lasted about an extra hour. Both of those batteries were rated to be the same, but clearly the INU battery performs better. I did the battery test twice, actually in fact 3 times, to check that the battery wasn't going to start to lose its sort of capacity quickly, because sometimes that can happen with the cheaper batteries, and actually it performed basically the same every time. And then I even put the battery in the heating chamber, and it worked comfortably and even at different temperatures. So I was actually very impressed with the battery. But buying this unit might be worth it just for the battery, actually, because those batteries can cost quite a bit. Okay, so let's keep on going. The next thing I'll probably mention is, a lot further along into the testing, what I did was I switched out from the USB cooler to the gel pack. So in this graph here, so when you get to sort of this point here, see where I say switch to the gel pack. Here you can see what happens when we switch to the gel pack. So the way this was set up was I had a Zepbound pen that I'd used, but I put it back in the fridge. I attached 2 temperature probes to it, one on the lower side, one on the upper side. I placed the Zepbound pen in the travel case container along with the gel pack. I followed the instructions provided for the gel pack. It said to leave it in the fridge at least 6 hours. I left it overnight. I took it out. It said let it warm up for at least 60 seconds or something. So I did that, and then I sort of packed everything up and let the test run. So the first cautionary note is if you do that, your product will get exposed to freezing temperatures for about 78 minutes, upwards of more than an hour during that initial phase. So the temperature of the container will go down to very, very low. Yeah, probably went down to about 28 degrees Fahrenheit at one point. But there was a little in this graph here. You can see there's now a separation of the temperature probe that was in the lower section and the temperature probe that was in the upper section of the container. So the lighter blue is the lower section and the darker blue is the upper section. So you can see there's quite a big temperature difference between the lower and the upper section. So the way you can sort of view this actually is that the insulation quality of the lid is pretty poor, as well as the overall construction of the thermoflask. There's sort of different qualities of manufacturing that can get you different qualities of vacuum layers when you assemble the inner kind of metal container and the outer metal container. And so this kind of indicates that this was not the highest quality thermoflask in terms of its sort of construction and how it was put together. So it basically vents, it warms up quickly. The thermal exchange its insulation capability is not so good. So the bottom line, what that actually means is the upper chamber, in fact, warms up quite quickly and warms up above 46 degrees within about 6 hours, versus the lower chamber, which will stay cool and stay below 46 degrees for as long as 25 hours. So that's where I was mentioning, be very careful about, if you do want to use this product, storing your product in the upper section of the container, because it will actually warm up very quickly and breach that 46 degrees Fahrenheit pretty quickly, so within 6 hours for the gel pack. And then similarly, when the product's under environmental strain using the USB cooler, it doesn't matter whether it's the upper or lower chamber, it will simply breach that 46 Fahrenheit pretty quickly when you go into the 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So that was a lot of stuff. If you're super technical and wanted all the juicy details, you definitely got them. I did a lot more behind the scenes testing with this one to double check and make sure I really understood everything. And so this is just a quick kind of peek and summary of the whole story. So let's keep on going. So going back to the product claims tables that they have. So what I did here was I put a little red mark next to claims which basically appear to not be achievable with the test results that I collected. And then the green little dots note that the test results potentially support the claim. Now I say potentially because some of them have both the red and the green dot, and that was relating to the biogel. So actually they would have made the claims had they not gone through that below freezing temperature at the beginning of the cooling cycle. And so perhaps if you add insulation to your product, or maybe run the biogel under hot water for a little bit, or just simply wait a few hours until it kind of warms back up a little bit, you will be able to overcome that initial issue with the biogel. But that's an inherent problem of all the biogels, which is why I sort of actually stay away from them for my product use. So as you can see, this product didn't really do well at all in relation to the claims that it was made, but it did have potential. So it can do very well provided that the ambient temperature is maybe more into the 70s Fahrenheit or below, and it can hold your product very stably at 44 Fahrenheit for an indefinite amount of time, provided the ambient temperature is quite cool. But be very careful when the ambient temperature starts going up. This product is not going to be able to hold that 46 Fahrenheit or below kind of mark. So bottom line is I have to say I really wanted this product to work, the INSUCOOLER. Conceptually it's really nice. That larger capacity aluminium or aluminum, if you want to pronounce it that way, sort of holder container was super cool. I was really hoping to be able to get a setup where I could carry 3 Zepbound pens, because that's typically what I need for some of my bigger trips, sort of 3 weeks of coverage. But unfortunately it's this one's too sensitive to ambient temperatures. I've traveled through airports and I know that they can buzz around between the 70s and the 80s Fahrenheit, and I need something that can really pack a punch even when you get up to the 90s. And then when you're on a plane, sometimes they don't switch the air conditioning on right away, so it kind of hovers up to 85 when you're sitting on you're at the gate kind of waiting, and sometimes they switch it on anyway, so you get the idea. If you're an experienced traveler, you'll know what I mean. And so it doesn't have the sort of the sturdiness that I need. So if in an emergency situation, if it was a cold day and my freezer somehow or fridge kind of failed, certainly this would be a great thing to have around, where you could just quickly whip it out, turn it on, and pop 3 pens in there, and it'll hold very comfortably at 44 Fahrenheit. So maybe if you have an RV and you're driving around and you're comfortable with your internal kind of RV climate or something, perhaps this could kind of work. So yeah, so overall, maybe some other things I liked. I liked that touch panel. That was super elegant. I was debating whether it might accidentally get messed up during travel, because it didn't take a lot. You only held it for maybe 5-10 seconds at the most, and then it would start cycling the low temperature conditions. So I was debating whether you could accidentally kind of mess up the temperature setting, but it was elegant. The material construction it looked elegant on the surface, but when you started touching it, the kind of the rubberized surface that the unit has, you could see that it was sort of easy to scratch it if it got nicks and dings. So I think it would wear pretty quickly. It would start to look like it's been well used within maybe a trip or two. The aluminium tube, you could actually see the machine, you could see kind of a little bit of the machine scars from when it was manufactured. So it wasn't a very crispy, clean kind of product in terms of its sort of manufacturing. So yeah, maybe this was a first kind of batch. It was a prototype for a bigger project. I don't know. I would really like to see them, giving this maybe an upgrade or two, because if they can get that container to work with the larger capacity, then that would be pretty cool. So yeah, that's all I have for this one. So I hope you found this informative and interesting. And just a couple of heads up, I have been working very passionately on the a Yeti cooler, and so specifically the Yeti 1 gallon Rambler, and an interesting challenge on can that be used to transport as many as 12 Zepbound pens in one trip. So I've made a lot of progress with that. I've actually done a lot of testing and trying out different configurations, and I believe I've found a setup that works. So it's going to take me a little bit of time to create that video, but I think you'll find that exciting when you see that. And then I've got a couple of trips coming up. I've got another big trip to Europe. I've got another trip to Chicago and stuff. And so I'll post some videos on that. I'm actually kind of debating which system to travel with. But as you all know, right now I'm a super big fan of the 4 all family voyages. So I may just stick to my routine. We shall see. Anyway, so stay tuned for this Yeti Rambler video, because I think you'll find that one very, very interesting. Alright, so that is all I have for today. So wishing you a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Stay cool, and talk to you again. Have a good one.